Monday night,
welcome.
Novak panel, Novak News,
Hey
Angelo and
guys.
myself, and Mark Novak.
Hey.
Yes. Lisa can hear us, so it's perfect.
You turn that down, yeah. Off we go.
Alrighty, what are we going to talk tonight? Talk about, is the market going down 20%? Again, more? Has it? What's happening? What are the key things to look for, or what we're looking out for? Feedback from clients, indicators on where we see the market going.
Yeah, it's interesting. We thought about, we wanted to have a bit of an open discussion, and we invite everyone's comments as well, positive and negative, just to throw it all around, because at home, at a barbecue, that's what people discuss.
Everyone always asks. Whenever we're out at a social event, everyone always goes, how's the market? What's it doing?
Yeah.
What to look at? You sort of can't escape it. So
Now, something we actually had in our sales meeting today that we discussed with all of our reps, and everyone was really fiery and passionate about, was exactly how the markets perform, and in exactly like percentage-wise, and is it the bottom of the market?
Yeah.
So we've probably had a correction of 15%. We've probably had in some markets of Sydney, maybe even 20%.
Yeah.
In some markets of Sydney, people have suggested the prices are back to 2015, 2016 prices in some parts of Sydney.
I think fortunately Northern Beaches though, we've done pretty well compared to what, as I said, we're seeing 25, 30, sometimes a bit more percent.
Yep.
Northern Beach, and most of our viewers are Northern Beaches as well. So I think, and it does come down to buying in core areas with the core fundamentals of the beach, low development prospects, where council is quite tight on new development, where you're not going to a suburb where there's 2,000, then 4,000, 8,000 new units in it. So I think we can be pretty positive about the Northern Beaches market in this, especially if, as you say, is it the bottom? And if so, I think we've done pretty well.
And I think also when people are wanting to act, or people are almost looking for an excuse to actually to purchase, or not to purchase, or not to sell. So what's really, really relevant with that is now when you're trying to read the market, I think we want to educate you in what are the indicators in the marketplace to look for, because we can tell you guys, okay, we think it's a good time to buy, or we think it's a good buy to sell, but it's more of a fact-finding thing for you, that you want to sort of collate all that information that's out there in the marketplace and make your own decision. So with some of the information we want to go through tonight, we've literally collated that information across the marketplace to serve it up to you, for you to make an educated decision of, is it time to sell or is it time to buy?
Well, I think besides the GFC or World War III, there's almost been every excuse not to buy in the past 6 months. The Royal Commission, the bank's attitude's a big one. It wasn't just the Royal Commission, it was just they didn't want to lend you money. Then you had Christmas, then we had the state election, and then federal election. So as an agent, it was almost like one hurdle after another, and we did see some really good buying. But as like Tom Patterson always says, you never know you're at the bottom until it starts going up. And after the reaction this weekend, positive reaction buy numbers, I think it will be very interesting. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, I've noticed, especially the last, even after the election, normally it takes a little while for anything to come across, but even the feedback, just with a few little hints and APRA and a few little hurdles that have actually been put out, even with what banks are looking at doing with interest rates over the last 2 weeks, our numbers are just skyrocketed. So it's something I wasn't expecting so early.
A bit of lag. I think people, they sort of saw through a lot of it, and they just wanted that endorsement. And I think on Saturday when the Liberals got in, was just that endorsement. People were ready to go. Because I found there was a lot of people still, as much as we're talking about money, it was, if the banks didn't have as you said earlier in another video, the banks didn't have the attitude to give you money. So, especially on that commercial, I had a lot of clients cashed up, don't need to lend, but because everything was negative, or the attitude, they didn't want to spend it. And as soon as that opened up, able to get away 3 gondola, which was a great freestanding building plug, for 2.75, which was on the market through all those differences. But they were all the excuses. Sells the week after the election.
It's interesting.
Positive.
So guys, let's deal with the facts. If you've got any questions, we are running live, so if you want to pop that into the comments, feel free to. We'll entertain those questions. Say g'day to everyone who's out there. But let's look at the facts of what's happened in the marketplace. Is it going to go down further, guys? Is it, again, that's a hard fact to find, but if we go back and look at historicals in the marketplace, that's always educating us. So we've got the ability to go back to the last, this morning sales meeting we're talking was
40 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, you could go back 40 years.
Yep.
And we can look at those corrections in the marketplace, how much they corrected. So we referred to it as negative growth.
Yep.
Bit of a play on words, but it's negative growth in the marketplace. Then we talk about growth in the marketplace, and then we talk about stability. But the big thing the last 18 to 24 months, and that's a number that we're going to tell you about, 18 to 24 months. The big thing to watch out for in what we're going to show you is two things. How long did the negative growth go on for in the last 8 corrections? The second thing to watch out for is how much percentage-wise was there negative growth before it stopped. Yeah. Because all that last 8 negative growths that we had stopped. Did they stop after 1 month or did they stop after 1 year? We're going to teach you that as well. So let's get into it.
Yep.
Bring up that graph, Mr. Ange.
Yeah, so we're going to post something in the comment section, which will.
Is that Angelo's version? This is Angelo's version. Didn't bring the graph, so I'm going to show you on the screen. All right, so let's have.
As we joked around before, just grab Mark's phone when you're ready and just have a look through it. All right, it's in chit chat.
You'll just bring that up. We're going to bring this forward on the screen, guys, so you can see it. If you can bring that up.
I can probably post it live as well. Save.
While you're doing that, I might just. Yep. So. Basically, guys, with this negative growth, and we're going to pop this graph in here for you, 8 corrections. The longest they all actually typically went for was 22 months. And that was back in 81, 82. That was a deep and it was a hard correction in the marketplace. The correction we've had currently in the marketplace now sits at about 15%. To 16%. So all these numbers, what does it mean? If I could bring that up on the screen, I'll just bring this forward, guys.
Yeah, do you want to bring it so I can see?
Yeah, we'll bring it up for you so you can see it. So, all right, guys, it'll take a while to come through. So what we're actually showing you here, and this has actually gone into the bottom of the comments here. There's 8 corrections there. From those 8 corrections that are there, everyone's typically lasted approximately 12 to 18 months, and some have spanned out to 22 months. What's our point, guys?
I think we're, if you look at a 24-month, where the longest correction has lasted the 24-month mark, we're getting close to, we've had the biggest fall that we've ever experienced. You'd see, as I said, that graph only shows you up to about 6 weeks ago. So we've had the biggest amount of a drop where there hasn't been a correction that's lasted more than 24 months in total. So it's so
that's it.
We're approaching 24 months.
Yeah.
So that's it. So going off historics of the last, this is Sydney data. Going off Sydney data, we've never actually had a. This is the second deepest cut that we've had in the property market in the last 40 years, almost in the history of property in Sydney. It's the second most negative growth that we've had, and it's also now going on as the longest time we've actually had negative growth for. Out of the last 8 times in the marketplace to have negative growth, it's never gone on for this long. So that really gives us the confidence in the marketplace that the negative growth is over.
Yep.
That the duration of the negative growth is over, and the percentage down, the prices down, is over.
Yep.
So we think next 2 years. What do you reckon?
I think it'll be going up slowly. I reckon it won't go. Keep in mind, we had negative growth, but for the 2 years before that was some of the strongest growth in a long time.
Massive.
So it's no doom and gloom. But I'm seeing with that. Well, look at the the key indicators, we've got Liberals in for another 4 years, confirmed.
Yep.
May go through a few different prime ministers, but they're in. You've got lowest stock levels, 781. This is the lowest it's been in about a year. So generally, when a market shits itself, the stock levels go up. You would see double, 30%, 40, 50% more stock because it's harder to sell.
Well, that'd be scary.
Then you'd be screwed.
So how many properties are on the market in the Northern Beaches?
781.
So if there was 781 properties on the Northern Beaches on the market, and that turned to 2,000, that would be chronic.
Yeah.
That would be a really scary place to be.
And you're hearing that in other areas from other agents who have had that 20, 25, 30% drop. So, as we sort of said earlier, Northern Beach is going strong.
So realestate.com, if you do a search and you write Northern Beaches, you will find there's a
781 units, houses, whatever, townhouses,
give you
land.
an example, 620 is generally been the lowest it's ever been.
And that was peak, booming.
And 13 to 1400 was the most it's been as well. So, and that was only, we're talking about October, November, December last year. Is when the market did get flooded. And that almost comes time as well, is when's a good time to sell as well. So a lot of people think spring's a good time.
No, I'd be...
The last 3 springs in a row have proven to be, I wouldn't say the worst, it's just you're up against more supply. There's just a lot more properties coming on the market. Everyone thinks for some reason on the beaches they're going to double their price in a spring market where it's the best time.
No.
I mean, Sydney I don't think experiences the really wet winters that other parts of the world would, where you'd say, okay, well, want to sell in summer, but generally overall, I've found the last 2-3 years, winters have been generally pretty good because
Low
of the supply,
stock.
which is what we're going through right now. So, which is good amount of stock on.
A big thing that I want to talk with you guys about tonight is, again, when we're reading, and tonight's all about, are we cutting deep with prices, or are we going up in prices, or levelling out? Or the real big question is, are we cutting deeper? The big about face that I've seen, and I feel really passionate about this. Everyone's shitting themselves about property prices, but this was manufactured.
Oh yeah.
This was manufactured. What I mean by that is our friends in government, our friends in APRA, leaning on our friends in the banks, have manufactured this correction in the marketplace. Every other correction that I've seen in the Australian property market has been almost from things that we can't change. So they're things like, the Americans, like 9/11.
Third-party economic influences that are just torpedoed through the market.
Well, look what happened in America with the mortgages in America. America shit itself, and then and we had a global GFC. And we couldn't control or change a global GFC. We didn't know how to fix it. The good thing about this is we know exactly, our friends in government know exactly the triggers, what led to this marketplace with negative growth. So they also know the triggers to bring it back into line. And the way they did it this time, which I think was quite clever, they didn't come through the front door with interest rate rises to slow the market down through the Reserve Bank. They came in the back door with APRA.
Yes.
Here's the kicker. The last 4 years, APRA's been tightening. The attitude of the monster has been tighten, and the attitude's been the same the whole time. Only until last week did the monster turn around and say, we're loosening up. So I think that about face for our property market is excellent news. I know it hasn't happened. People are saying we haven't got the benefit of it, but it's just the sheer change of the government to be talking with APRA to loosen up that marketplace. I think it's good times.
And what that means was the extra 2%. So even if you're borrowing money at 3.5%, the banks, in simple term, wanted you to be able to afford like a 7% interest rate. So they're almost forecasting the rates to go up, and they just wanted that extra cushion, which basically meant you had to earn 20% more to get a loan then as you're potentially going to need to do now. So a lot of stats on a $500,000 loan, 500,000, it's potentially your borrowing capacity has gone up $40,000 to $60,000, plus you're getting the stamp duty benefit. So that's huge. As you can see when you're out in the marketplace, between what you can buy for 500 grand, between to 560 to 600,000. Here it's almost the difference between buying a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment with just the smallest change.
That's a very good
in the attitude, and then that's going to just like the first. And on top of that, we got the first homeowner grant as well. So that's going to push the price of the studios to ones, to twos, and we'll see that through the marketplace. So big news, big news, because you can't. It's super hard to increase your income by 20%. Hit up your boss for 20%. It'd be very hard.
It's really hard.
Unless
It's really hard to hit. It's really hard.
Sell more.
Have a go.
Have a crack.
And another thing that came out of our meeting today that we're all talking about is following the most successful people in the country and their trends and what they do. So I know we've often seen successful stockbrokers in the country, and then if you're wanting to buy a stock, you look at what the stockbrokers do to buy your stock. And the biggest developer in Australia and the wealthiest man in Australia is Harry Triguboff. We do a lot of work with the Meritons. We won Meriton Agent of the Year last year, 2018, across Australia. New Meriton Agent of the Year. Watching these guys is really interesting because we're watching the richest man in Australia who's actually only got to that point from making the right moves
in property. In property. Not like he just tech company made billions and done this. Like in property, buy.
I think it's great.
Generally never sell.
What's he saying?
Yeah, buy. And he said, and you can also tell by the negotiating on each property as well. Their attitude's a lot more like
It's tougher.
Tougher now. Just
So
in the week.
We've
Just
noticed, we've noticed in the last week and a half or so.
Yeah,
So it's
like we're doing 5-10 deals in the last couple of weeks, and there's been different attitude in the last couple of days.
Through that period.
Which they're seeing that when you're dealing with 3,000, like they've probably got what 3,000 units.
3,000 for sale. Yeah.
Yeah, for sale. You can see a trend pretty quickly. One thing we said a couple of weeks ago, or last post with commercial, there's only one sale every quarter.
Yep.
You can almost miss a cycle. But when you're seeing 3,000 properties, you see that buyer activity. The amount of data they would have would be phenomenal.
Nuts.
In
So our message is watch out for people like that in the marketplace, the titans in the property market, what they're doing, where they're buying themselves with their own money, and their attitude to the marketplace. They're not shy about telling you, so keep an eye out on that. Now, where do we see DY in the future, and how are those units selling? Example, Meriton. Cassiano's asked the question.
They're selling well.
Where do you see DY?
I see DY becoming a more. There will be a transition from Brookvale, I think, to DY as an economic hub on the northern beaches. Is my pick.
It's already happened.
It's happening.
All the commercial agents that were operating in DY are now operating Brookvale, now operating DY.
Yep. I see. There was a stat the other day. 14,000 jobs is in Brookvale, and there's only a population of 3,000. And I think that's obviously because they got a lot more commercial with DY, with a lot of new buildings coming where you're taking, like across the road, there was only a couple big buildings, big shops. Then they turned them into 11 new shops, more residential. Meriton, you got another 15 new shops, a lot of offices in there as well. I think it's going to become a pretty big economic hub for some cool, spunky offices, which will then stimulate the population, and the residential comes back follow.
And Cassiano, one thing that I really, really feel passionate about with DY that I think has changed is I've been in DY for over 40 years, and what's really, really changed, when something does change in the area, it has a knock-on effect over a very, very long period. So you would think if something new comes out, people would adopt it very quickly. Yeah. People would respect it and run with it very quickly. They don't. And I'm going to give an example on DY Beachfront.
Yeah.
DY Beachfront, if you go back to the oldies and talk about DY Beachfront 30, 40 years ago, half the properties could not be rented, half the shops were empty, and it was dangerous to be there. So
what changed?
The beachfront. Physically, it gentrified. So all the whole beachfront had started getting amazing businesses. People started investing in that promenade. But the effect from that was not instant. The effect from that, I would dare to say, would be about 10 or 15 years before we got the full force
and it's still picking up, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's still picking up. I'm actually noticing now that everyone's sort of spread themselves out, I think, at the moment, because you've got three or four big areas, or 4 areas in DY. You've got Redmond Plaza got redone.
Yep.
You've got the DY Grand, especially now since they put the medical centre and the
Childcare.
The childcare.
And they love to bag the Grand.
Yeah.
And they love to bag the beachfront.
Yep.
And they love to bag Meriton.
Yep.
But over time, this is the message. Over time, DY Beachfront got the love, and later all the people followed.
Yeah.
DY Grand got the love, and later I think it's doing pretty well actually.
Yeah.
I think it's picked up big time.
Heaps.
But put it this way, DY Beachfront, some of those rents are just as expensive as Manly, and you wouldn't believe it. Some of the rents those restaurants pay are the equivalent to the same rents as Manly. That's how much it's picked up. If someone said to you 10 years ago, you're going to be renting a shop the same rate as you would in Manly, you'd say you're crazy.
Nuts. Freshwater unit rents.
Same again. Hasn't DY had bigger growth than Freshie?
It has.
Yeah.
Who
would have thought?
I still believe.
Yeah.
So a big thing there is to look at is the. You're right, Edge. I tried to call you on that one, but I sort of struggled.
Is that because we said DY's done better than Freshie?
Yeah.
It's true, isn't it?
So Ange just did a bit of a sneeze, but it sort of went sideways. But let's again, Cassiana, going back to your great question. That's what I think that DY's got a brilliant future because it's had that infrastructure, and even the Beeline bus is almost an entity in itself, and our Northern Beaches Hospital is an entity in itself.
Yes.
Where I think they're almost like a reef. A beautiful reef that just it starts attracting great fish. Do you know what I mean? So over time, that Beeline bus is going to invigorate the whole centre of DY. 37 minutes to get to the city as opposed to an hour and 10.
Yes.
But we didn't feel the love straight away, but really people saying I want to be there.
Narrowena, I think even Narrowena had how close is you? You're on the corner of basically the cusp of Warringah Road, Pittwater Road, everything meets, getting closest. One of the closest suburbs. I mean, when you look at DY, where it's got so many units, Narrowena, where it's predominantly all houses, it's you knew like there was going to be a growth spurt, I believe, there, and it was one of the most affordable places to buy on the beaches for a house.
Yeah, fringe suburbs.
And so was DY, but I think now that it's improved with all the, as I said, with beelines and all the shopping and everything that's come into the area, but and look,
it's a cracker.
Don't get me wrong, I think Freshwater's got. The units are what's really hurting the freshwater side. With some people love that village feel, but we're feeling that the houses, Freshwater's now more maintaining the house area where you're getting a lot more families, and that's the spot to go buy your home closer to Manly, and that's where it's maintained the value there. But I think because of the rents, where it's really come and hurt Freshwater is that in DY, most people now, because rents have gone so high, they need a second bathroom where they can actually have a bit of a share accommodation.
Yep.
Because you average 2-bedroom
Well, that's
in
right.
DY $600-700 a week.
Yeah.
And when you're on, as a couple, or even if you want a flatmate, you're going to be sharing the same bathroom. And Freshwater, I don't think there's more than about 2 or 3% of units in Freshie that actually have two bathrooms. They're all older style buildings.
People really value that.
Whereas
They really
DY is...
I'd almost say they value that over a car space.
And just a shout out, Michael Burgess' mum's watching.
Yeah, Mum. I'll be home for dinner soon.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I didn't think of that 2 bathroom thing. That's a big one.
Very
And guys, on wrapping up, just discuss on the property market and our sentiment on the property market. Negative growth being over.
Yeah.
The correction being over, and a good correction. I'm not haters on the correction, and I'm not haters for government.
Let's put it there. All between, all that led up, everyone was talking about affordability.
It's tightened up our
It's tightened up,
policies,
giving
it's
people
better
to get
economy.
in there. And when you have that, as we said, whenever you can have that effect on anything to pull it back when you want to, then you've got control. So if anything, it's hats off to the government to show they had control, because when you had areas going up 20, 50, 100%, like, well, is it just going to go out? Is it going to get out of control? And then there could be something a lot worse that could happen. So,
first home buyers are going to get incentivised.
Yes.
And guys, interest rates far out. Seriously,
money couldn't get cheaper.
If we get another 2 rate reductions by the end of the year,
yes.
Come on, like you're talking about buying money at 3.5%. That is a gift. That is a gift. I don't care how hard it is for a first home buyer. The first home buyer is getting a 3.5% interest rate.
Yep.
That is a gift.
on top of the APRA of the 2% buffer. So it's really 40% down.
On top of the government
4%.
giving 15%, underwriting 15%, and on top of the incentives, like life is good. It is time. It is
Yep.
time. It is time. I don't know what people need in the marketplace to say this is an all-time low. Money's cheap. Get in.
Yep. Have your smashed
And then when
Avo and buy a property.
Smashed Avo, and you get it. And then go back on history. If you're not a believer, go back on history. Wow.
Well, it will be a lot better to buy than rent. So keep it simple.
cheaper.
Let's say property market doesn't go up. You'll save money buying a property. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, guys, finishing off, anything else we want to talk to our people out? There's Deb. Mum's ready. Deborah said it's ready.
That's love, eh?
Yeah, it's love.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any questions out there, guys, before we wrap up? Any statements out there, guys, you want to talk about it with anyone?
No, Eric this weekend we'll be sharpening our tool with some of the leaders in Australia and the country. Panos will be there.
The biggest trainers in the country.
Loved last year.
Yeah. So that's where we get your real estate agent's got to be educated in the marketplace, and we're all going off for that training.
In property and finance, everything. There's no stone left unturned.
2 days.
So we're going to go there, we're going to learn, we're going to share that with you as well. Anything else?
That's all.
No, that's all.
We're done.
Thank
Guys,
you.
take care, and hope we helped you out with our take on the property market. And again, if there's any questions, pop them in. We'd love if you share Novak News. That really helps us to get the good word out there. If there's any points in there, or put your friends' details in there so they can watch it.
Yes.
And keep an eye out next Monday night. We're going to have some interesting characters on Novak News.
I'll probably do it live, Eric, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, done.
Cheers. See you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Get my extra 30 seconds of fame.